Okay. The question is now our mind, in particular our closest instrument of buddhi, that is called a chitta, primarily by Patanjali in his treatise on yoga, whereas Kapil, the author of Sankhya, generally calls it buddhi. But both authors have used both the terms. Now, it is not that uh, they are two instruments, they are the two names for the same instrument. Okay. Now the question is, they are in three modes, what is called Trigunatmak, because they are evolute of Prakriti, and Prakriti is our base matter, which has implicitly three modes of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Now the question is, our Buddhi or Chitta, whatever you call it, is rich in Sattva, quite rich, because it has to function as my knowledge faculty, discriminative faculty, and that's what a particular Mahat is employed to function as my Chitta. Now, this background, the question has been raised that people who are very spiritual beings, what would be their Chitta like, or how is it different, or how have they made it different, in what way they have become more qualified, or they have made it a greater proportion of sattva. Now, in answer to this question, I would say when somebody is making spiritual progress, then there are twofold effects in our overall mind. Mind as such has three units, namely buddhi, what is called chitta also, unit number one, because this is closest to me. This is me, my purush, so to say. The next unit is called ahankar, and then it is called manas. Now, we said that if somebody is above average in his, whom we can call he's a more spiritually developed human being, then what does it mean? In answer to that, I am saying there are twofold factors here. One is there is a overall character of a chit is slightly more rich in sattva now. So there is slight change here, the character of his chitta. But more, I will say, the change is in the second unit of ahankar, which is our storage device, and that has all our data, the past knowledge, past experiences, and past actions. So there is a past knowledge is called smriti, past experiences are called vasana, and past impressions of my actions are called sanskar. So all of them are there, and those deposits are actually responsible that I came in bondage and as a human being. So when I say somebody is developing in spiritual direction, then apart from change in the composition of his buddhi or chitta, there is much more change in the content of his mind domain, which were, uh, say, there is a whole group is called as klesh. That klesh is avidya, etc., etc. And because of the klesh, in particular because of avidya, I am bonded. This me and this was bonded. So naturally, when I am born with a lot of deposits of this avidya. Now, as he is becoming spiritually developed, two things are happening. The basic character of his chit is making better and better, but I will say that is in a very fine limit. But more than that, the change is here that his sanskar is a family term for all three in one, namely smriti, vasana, and sanskar. So sanskar is past impressions of actions, and also it is the whole family of past impressions are called also sanskar. So the overall content is changing, and that's what makes him more spiritual, because all our functions are, of course, determined by the quality of my buddhi, but very much more by what I am. This is what is my personality. That's why it is called ahankar. Ahankar is not ego here. This is aham plus kar. This is a compound word like kumbham karoti iti kumbhakaya. The one who makes a kumbh is called kumbhakar. So this is what makes my aham, means who I am. So because my personality is basically what all I am, deposits I am containing here. I hope, is there any more you would like to add to the question, or have I answered what you?
Makes sense.
Just excuse me for 1 second.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
So it makes sense. Thank you.
Yep. Any other thing we can discuss, or any other question?
Yeah, other question I had was, I would like to kind of discuss a little bit more on, there is, when you talk about meditation, there's a definition of samayam, that you're never in a perfect meditation. You kind of go between concentration, meditation, and samadhi kind of thing, right? And I think it's probably, practically, how do you adjust that? How do you try to increase your meditation from more, some of this is all related, but I think in theory it sounds easy to understand, but practically it's not only during meditation. You have to kind of make sure you are truly reducing all the things that are bothering your mind, so that you could focus.
Yeah. This is a very important and relevant question, because theoretically it's good to know how my mind functions and what is the Vedic concept of mind in Sankhya and Patanjali. But from practical angle, we should be able to somehow, I won't say control our mind, or develop a harmonious relationship with our mind, so that it works the way I want it to work. When I say it is my mind, I would like it to function the way I want it. And if I get that harmonious relationship, then naturally it is very useful. When I work, anything I do with mind, I will be able to apply my mind properly, and so on and so forth. So how to gain that harmonious relationship with mind? That's what meditation helps us, is it not? So this is like catch-22. If I am not in my relationship with my mind is not very good, harmonious, then it is difficult for me to sit for meditation. And if I succeed in meditation, then I develop a harmonious relationship with mind. So it looks like it is like a cycle, is it not? So catch-22, so to say. So that's where Patanjali's teachings are very relevant. He is teaching us yoga chitta vetena yoga, how to calm down our function of mind. So naturally, if I can calm it down, that way I am employing a better harmonious relationship. If you are able to stop the car whenever you want it, it means you have a good control over your vehicle, is it not? So now the question pertains to the details of because you have used the term Sanyam in the very beginning, which is a Patanjali
Sayyam
term.
or the more technical term would be Samyam. Is it the Samyam?
Yeah, it depends how do you pronounce it, Samyam or Sanyam,
Yeah.
but we mean the same thing. It is
Right.
the term yam with a prefix of sam. So Sanyam. This is a Patanjali's, this is a technical term in Patanjali's book on yoga philosophy. His
Right.
sutra is Teyam Ekatya Sanyama. If I can cook it out, I'm just trying to see if I can get it easily. So this comes in the third chapter. I think he says, Teyam Ekatya Sanyama. So here Teyam means three of them. Now what is that three is Dharana, Dhyan and Samadhi. So he's saying Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi, when they are focused on one thing, one object of interest, then it is Sanyam. So just trying to get that particular sutra. I am opening my file on Yoga Sutra original. So let's see. Okay, this is, I hope you can see it, Patanjali Yoga Sutra. And I have to go to the third chapter because I know this is this is third chapter, second. This is about Samadhi, and the fourth sutra is Teyam Ekatya Sanyama. I hope you can see this, is it so?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So this is a technical term. This Teyam means three of them, which have been described above in the first, second, and third. So you will see the 3.1. This is 3 point I am saying because it is third chapter, Vibhuti Pada. So the first one is Dharana. The second one is Dhyana. So third component is Samadhi. So as you know, out of Ashtanga Yoga, the last three limbs are Dharana, Dhyana and Samadhi. And as you can see here, Dharana is a Deshbandha Chittasya Dharana. When Chitta is focused at a particular junction, this is bandage. Desh is this body domain. So, we ask practitioner to focus your mind at one of these points, such as these body points. Then when dharana is fixed, you are as if your mind is focused there. Now, tattva means thereupon, having fixed your mind there. In my personal teaching experience, I suggest between two eyebrows, So I tell my students, focus your mind here. So notionally, that is where your mind is placed. Now, tattva means thereupon, mind having been placed here. Pratyaya is you are superimposing something on your mind. And that is called dhyan, provided that pratyaya, that prototype you have superimposed, say you have seen in your memory a particular flower and you are superimposing that image of flower on your mind scan. But then ektanta means it is uninterrupted, it is absolutely uniform. Then the dharana has become improved to dhyan. Now that dhyan further has to improve. Now tadev arth matra. Now that object was flower. Now you don't have anything else but that flower only. Then it is, now uh, how dhyan and samadhi are different, I have to explain slightly. In dhyan, you are aware that you are observing that flower. So there are three things, the shabda, the word of that flower, the object, that flower, and jnana means it is coming to you through the instrument of chitta. So it's like when I see a picture of a cow, let me say I am focused on a picture of a cow. So when I am seeing that, this is now dharana, but in my mind sometimes there is interruption. This is dharana. Now there is no interruption, it is only this picture of cow, then it has become dhyan. Is that okay?
Yeah.
But now this is also not samadhi, because though I am observing the picture of cow, I am, in a subtle sense, I am aware that the object is cow, which is aware. Now this is the picture and I am the observer, you know. Or I will say, sorry, the object is that animal, particular animal, cow, the word cow, and that I am watching this picture, which is the instrument. It's called Shabda, Earth, and Jnana. Shabd is the word, earth is the particular object that is signified by the word, and Jnana is the instrument via which you are observing it. Here, in this particular example, the instrument is the picture that I am observing. Is it not? Are you with me?
Yes.
Now I will say this becomes samadhi when I loses the sense about the word cow and lose the sense that I am watching a picture. Now it is as if I am lost in that particular object that the cow is. So that is what is meaning Earth Matya Nebhasam. Earth is that object. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now Dhyan has become Samadhi when I see, I have no awareness that object is called by the word, and I am not aware of this picture. I am lost in that particular cow only. Now there is a word Swarup Sunyam. What it means is actually the picture is there, but as if it has lost its existence for me. Okay. Now, whatever I have explained, namely the cow picture and me as the observer, this was an analogy. You extrapolate it to the object is cow, but instead of the picture, it is the image of cow falling on my chitta. So, so in dhyan, I am observing the picture of cow on my chitta, but I am aware that that object is called cow, the word, as well as the fact that I am observing that cow on my chitta. But now when I lose the awareness about that chitta, as well as about the word, then I am in samadhi. Now I am totally lost in the object only. Earth matya nevasam. Is that okay?
Yes.
Now, what is the meaning of Sanyam is, if I started with dharana on a particular object, say the cow, that itself became better quality, that dharana became dhyan, and then dhyan graduated to become samadhi, the same object. It's not that there was a changeover. Then I have achieved what is called Sanyam. I am focused on the object of interest only. Is that okay? Otherwise, you may start dharana with an object, say cow, but you may start observing a horse now, and then your samadhi is in, in camel, for example. So you now dharana, dhyan, and samadhi are on three different objects. That won't be called sanyama. Is that okay?
Yes.
Now, did you mean, let me ask you at this point, when you asked me a question on sanyama, did you mean this term here?
I think I meant this term, but what I had read is that what the way you explained that there are those three parts, right? Concentration, meditation, and samadhi,
Yeah.
right? But the way I read was also that in practice, you go between all three, keep going between all three.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And I thought that was some sanyam, that practically you're always between the three, and you have to make effort to come to the samadhi.
Yeah.
So as if like you may lose it, you may be like concentration is not that difficult, but then you get to the dhyan, but while you're doing dhyan, you suddenly lose the dhyan. And
Okay.
I wanted to understand that part more of.
Yeah, I think
is
your
that-
question is more at, you might have used this term sanyama, but your interest was more from practical meditation practice point of view. How to, any tips for better meditation practices?
or how to get to sanyam.
Yeah. I will take a step back in the sense, it's good to, this, the problem here is Patanjali's Yoga Treatise actually has three kinds of prescriptions, and unfortunately, the modern commentators have not really understood that part. So all are just talking Ashtanga Yoga as if that is the only prescription, and that causes misunderstanding. So I will not go much into detail, but since you are studying it very well, and I think you will understand by that what I am saying, that his first chapter, which is Samadhi Path, is for a superior category people, which is talking about yoga, so to say. Then, and since in the answer to the previous question, I have used the term klesh, and so I can use the word klesh now. Let me describe, there are three levels of people. We are all born with some deposits of klesh, That's why we are here as a human being. Now, klesh makes us go after sukh, and of course, we want to avoid dukh, but we lead our life like that. And I think in previous occasion I have said, these are average good people who are just doing noble, good, positive karma so that they get sukh, is it not? These are average people. Now there are lower category people, this one, where they, to get their own, to gain their sukh, they even are not willing to harm others, We know there are a lot of people in this category. They are below average people, is it so? Now, there are some people, this is more like Nishkam Karma. They know that there is a law of karma and good karma being sukh, yet they just want to do good karma just for sake of it, as if they are expected by that supreme being, So you can call it Nishkam Karma or whatever it is. But in Patanjali's terminology, they are driven by what is called Vairagya, Here there is a Rag and Dvesh, the average people. So Rag is also one klesh, and under the influence of Rag, you are, because there are previous cravings in your mind, you want to gain certain objects of pleasure again because you have had a taste of them. So these people say, I don't want to be driven by my cravings, but yet I want to do good karma. So they are driven by vairagya now. So this becomes three categories of people. Now Patanjali's first chapter is for this kind of people whose clash is very low level. It is there, and by practice of what is called abhyas, so he is suggesting abhyas and vairagya both, so that you don't get new deposits, but the previous deposits can be burnt out by high level of samadhi, and that is Nibbid samadhi, and that chapter ends there. Now his objective has been met, and he has nothing more to do in the world. So this is like a Jivan Mukta person. Now comes the second category of people. So for him in his second chapter, what is called Sadhan Path, he is giving a prescription of Kriya Yoga. So Kriya Yoga, if you see, the objective is Samadhi Bhavanat, Klesh Tanu Karnathas. So these are average people. So they are more driven by Klesh. So he says, if you practice Kriya Yoga, then your Klesh will diminish. And you will also become qualified for Samadhi path. So there is a slight supplementary education for him. That supplementary is called Kriya Yoga, but Kriya Yoga then makes him qualified for this. Is that okay? Now for third category person, where he is employing unfair means also, now that Klesh has become what is called Ashuddhi. So if I could show you, because these are things modern commentators have not understood, that is a big problem. So I think you are aware of the structure of Patanjali's book, the way I have explained. I just want to show you the start of his Ashtanga Yoga. This is Tasya Hetu Avidya. So this is his statement. Avidya is the cause of that sanyog, why I and my buddhi are joined together, that bandh. So this is anyway, is just because I mentioned that. Now he is Yoganga Nushthanad Ashuddhi Kshay. I hope you are able to see it. This is second chapter, 28th Sutra. So this is now not Klesh. Klesh has become Ashuddhi. That's why he is employing unfair means. Klesh itself is not very good, bad, as long as you are here, And if you followed Kriya Yoga, you would have gone there, But you are not careful. And in the day-to-day life, you have started doing adharma. So you have allowed your Klesh to become Ashuddhi now. And now for him, this is the third prescription of Ashtanga Yoga, So Ashtanga Yoga is for this person. Are you with me?
Yes.
Now, because it is for this, even after Dharana, Dhyan and Samadhi, this person is more interested in developing his mental powers, That is why it is Vibhuti Path, where he gains lot of mental strength, His spiritual interest is still at low level. Because he is in this category, you have to understand it.
Yeah.
Now you and I are not in this category, Because you are interested in these teachings, it means we are slightly above average or average, is it not? And in our life, we are not employing such means. So we are here or somewhere here. Are you with me?
Yes.
So here I'm not saying that Ashtanga Yoga is not good for us. We can use that, but after the Samadhi, those three statement, Dharana, Dhyan and Samadhi, we don't have to go to the later part of Vibhuti path, The reason I am not going against Patanjali, you know, but don't misunderstand me. What I am saying is, let us follow Dharana, Dhyan and Samadhi. But in Dhyan, he is giving us wide open freedom. You employ any pratyaya that you want, Like some people become hypnotism expert, They have different kind of pratyaya. And they are expert in their minds and they can control others' minds also, But you and I are not interested in that. We are interested in real Patanjali's Yog Chitta Vritti Niyog, is it not? So from that point of view, I will suggest, the reason I am making a long answer to this question is, I am going to that 3.2, Tatya Pratyaya Ek Tanata Dhyanam. And that's what I employ in my teaching. So we are going to, yeah. Here the key thing is Pratyaya. Patanjali is giving us freedom. You choose anything. So this is what I have learned from Maharishi Dayanand. And that was a very good idea. He says, the sound of Om, Omkar Jap, Om, Om. If you fix that as your Pratyaya, then this Ashtanga Yoga becomes, it will itself take you to as Kriya Yoga and the real Yoga, So, your practical question was, our dharana doesn't quite become like dhyan, and then even if it becomes, it doesn't quite become samadhi, because we are using this statement in its full strength, but its full strength is for this category of people, because they are not interested in Pranav Jap, They are not much interested in Pranav Jap. Pranav Jap was in the first chapter, if you remember that. In Ishwar Paridhan section, I think you know it, or I can show you quickly. This is in the first chapter, first section, it begins from here. Ishwar Paridhana Dvav, 1.23. So he's saying that basically the discussion is, some people take less time, some people take more time. Tivya samveganam asanna, So he's saying there is a way to make a very efficient progress. Then he's saying within this category there are Midu, Madhya and Adhi, average, below average and faster than average. And then he is saying Adhimatra, a particular scheme which is very, very efficient. So that scheme is called Ishwar Pranidhanat. It is optional because he is using the term Va. But he is suggesting it. This is the most efficient way. And then from 123 on, now since he has brought in the term Ishwar, he is obliged to explain what this Ishwar is. So he is talking about, this is Purush Vishesh Ishwar. He is Sarvajna, all-knowing. He has been the teacher of all our predecessors. So, he is, and his kalam is not due to klesh. Our kalams are due to klesh. So he is void of klesh. So he doesn't have kalam vipak. There are no rewards to his kalam. So, he is special from all others. So that was in the action. This is about his knowledge part. And then he says, he is known by a sound. That sound is Pranam. That is his name, so to say. Om. Then he says, that should be the recited jap with its meaning. Meaning is, of course, that Ishwar. And so, recitation is not at the word level, it's at the what it means, bhavana. Ishwar bhavana, as if a child is in the lap of his mother, He may not be knowing what is the meaning of mother and this and that, but he knows that I am in my most secured space, So that sort of so it is not just reciting at the word level, but going into that feeling. And then he says, Tata pratyay chetana adhigamo. Now you, tata means out of that, you enter into your own self, what is your consciousness. So that is where you are no more with your mind, you are tada dashtu swarupe avasthanam. So you have achieved the yoga. So this is his efficient scheme. So now what I am saying is, I club this component with pratyaya ektanata dhyanam. So my pratyaya becomes recitation of this sound om. So what I am suggesting to you is, when you close your eyes, you just start with, indeed, if you pick up some of what I teach Friday morning, if you look at their recordings, if you are unable to attend that Friday session, just look at some of the recordings,
Okay.
and that will give you an idea, because that's what is a practical session where I touch upon all the practical issues. So in brief, the answer is, you recite that sound. In Pratyahara, we recite it orally. Then for a minute or so. Then in Dharana, it becomes mental recitation. But some thoughts may, move into our mind domain. But when you are conscious, no, I want to remain hooked to this sound only, then there comes a time that there is ektanta, uniformity of this mental recitation. Then you are in dhyan. And when this sound also somehow disappears, as if that Supreme Mother has taken you in her lap, then you are immersed in that thing. So it is not that you go from dharana to dhyan or from dhyan to samadhi. It is just dharana graduates to become dhyan and dhyan graduates to become samadhi. But this requires it is just a matter of practice. And I am sure you should not have a problem. It is just you have to do the practice properly. So some tips I have given there. If you see first 3 or 4 recordings, I have covered the practice part most or more or less. Or in one of this session we can do it separately. If you have any question even after that. Okay, thank you
Thank
for
you.
you made today's
Thank you.
session.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for so detailed answer.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We'll meet again next.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye. Have a good time.